Welcome to Chapter 2. In the early years of the war, the English, led by their king and his son Edward, the Black Prince, saw resounding successes, notably at Crécy, 1346, and at Poitiers, 1356, where King John of France was taken prisoner. By 1378, under King Charles V the Wise and the leadership of Bertrand du Guesclin, the French had reconquered most of the lands ceded to King Edward in the Treaty of Bretigny, signed in 1360, leaving the English with only a few cities on the continent. In the following decades, the weakening of royal authority, combined with the devastation caused by the Black Death of 1347-1351, which killed nearly half of France and 20 to 33% of England, and the significant economic crisis that followed, led to a period of civil unrest in both countries. These crises were resolved in England earlier than in France. The newly crowned Henry V of England seized the opportunity presented by the mental illness of Charles VI of France and the French Civil War between Armagnacs and Burgundians to revive the conflict. Overwhelming victories at Agincourt, 1415, and Verneuil, 1424, as well as an alliance with the Burgundians, raised the prospects of an ultimate English triumph and persuaded the English to continue the war over many decades. A variety of factors prevented this, however. Notable influences include the deaths of both Henry and Charles in 1422, the emergence of Joan of Arc, which boosted French morale, and the loss of Burgundy as an ally, concluding the French Civil War. The Siege of Orléans, 1429, made English aspirations for conquest all but infeasible. Despite Joan's capture by the Burgundians and her subsequent execution, 1431, a series of crushing French victories concluded the siege, favoring the Valois dynasty. Notably, Patay, 1429, Formigny, 1450, and Castillon, 1453, proved decisive in ending the war. England permanently lost most of its continental possessions, with only the Pale of Calais remaining under its control on the continent until the Siege of Calais, 1558. Local conflicts in neighboring areas, which were contemporarily related to the war, including the War of the Breton Succession, 1341-1364, the Castilian Civil War, 1366-1369, the War of the Two Peters, 1356-1369, in Aragon, and the 1383-1385 crisis in Portugal, were used by the parties to advance their agendas. By the war's end, feudal armies had mainly been replaced by professional troops, and aristocratic dominance had yielded to a democratization of the manpower and weapons of armies. Although primarily a dynastic conflict, the war inspired French and English nationalism. The broader introduction of weapons and tactics supplanted the feudal armies where heavy cavalry had dominated, and artillery became important. The war precipitated the creation of the first standing armies in Western Europe since the Western Roman Empire and helped change their role in warfare. Civil wars, deadly epidemics, famines, and bandit-free companies of mercenaries reduced the population drastically in France. But at the end of the war, the French had the upper hand due to their better supply, such as small handheld cannons, weapons, etc. In England, political forces over time came to oppose the costly venture. After the war, England was left insolvent, leaving the conquering French in complete control of all of France except Calais. The dissatisfaction of English nobles, resulting from the loss of the continental landholdings, as well as the general shock at losing a war in which investment had been so significant, helped lead to the Wars of the Roses, 1455-1487. The economic consequences of the 100 Years' War not only produced a decline in trade but also led to a high collection of taxes from both countries, which played a significant role in civil disorder. Chapter 3 will be continued.